So let's talk about identity. This is a theme that comes up with our students and our literature all the time, every grade level. And I know from my experience that this is something that students are very interested in. I mean, of course they are. Their identity is something that is changing and they're understanding it in completely different ways, especially if you have students who are on those threshold years, the 8th grade to 9th grade years, those 12th grade to post-high school years, in everything in between that's so messy and undefined. Doing a unit that gives children a chance to wrestle with their identities is crucial. And you have so many text options for making that happen. But here's what usually happens is students can be very oversimplifying when it comes to identity, because on the surface, a conversation about who am I can be very simple, right? Students are quick to reduce that conversation to a few details, right? Maybe a few adjectives and call it a day. Well, this essential question, right, which is the more dominant force in creating my identity, my environment or my biology, takes that conversation to an entirely new level. So using this as this essential question, right, think of it as an umbrella. Think of it as a spine, a road, something that's going to be used to connect a wide variety of concepts, ideas, and texts together to help your students get behind the nuances and the complexities of identity. So when it comes to our environment, right, you could think about environment in terms of nurture, right? If we're talking about nature versus nurture, this is the nurture side. Other synonyms to use in this conversation are DNA, ancestry, those things that are innate in us that we didn't necessarily have any control over, our personalities. Those are the things that we're talking about when we're talking about our biology in this question. There is room to explore this side of the question from all of those angles. And in looking for different resources, this is a fun place to get into science, right? Like I said, you can look at DNA. What is the chromosomal makeup of who you are and how that impacts your identity, right? Your height, your eye color, your skin color. All of this comes from your biology, as do so many other things if you were to look at your actual, right, your family history and where you come from. On the other side, of course, is our environment, the nurture side, the space in which you occupy, the time period, the cultural community that's around you. All of that is going to influence the parts of your identity that are environmental. And so what this question is trying to do is to give students, first and foremost, access to explore all of those things, right? Who am I? Not just in like 5 words, right? We're not doing a 6-word memoir here. We're going to actually investigate all of the words across both spectrums, right? The things that are inside of us and the things that are outside of us that make us who we are. Then we're going to move students through all of that and into which force is more dominant in when I tell you who I am, when I define myself and I look at these two sides. Which of them am I actually pulling from the most? And students might find themselves surprised. And of course, there is no right answer because the question is about them. Is it their internal family history, biology side, or is it their environment? And so not only can they look at this for themselves, their own journeys, but they're also going to be able to look at this through the lens of the novels you're reading, the literature circle books that you're studying, and of course, all the supplementary texts. This unit is going to light curiosity on fire. And I just know that your students are going to get so wrapped around these different components of the question. I hope that you enjoy studying biology and environment and having wonderful critical thinking discussions. So here's where this question actually gets very tricky. is that the very real possible answer is both. Let's take the first lesson in this series for me. I love to start this unit with a series on names, right? Names walk the line between environment and biology, right? Our names come from our parents, right? They're not DNA, they're not inside of us, but they are given to us by our two most biological ancestors. And a lot of times names are driven through the connection to people who have come before you. Names are connected to your assumed, understood gender identity at the time. So there are a lot of ways that names are connected to biology, but certainly names are connected to, right, your environment. Names are a result of popular trends at the time. They're a result of the environmental factors that are influencing the moment that you're living in, the culture that you're born into, and what is generally expected, right? How many names you're given is part of that as well. So giving students these kinds of resources that help them see that it's not that simple is great. That's a great place to start, because now we've got kids doing critical thinking. That's the whole plan, right? That's the whole plan, is for them to say, well, it's not that simple. And so names is a very nice entry point for them to start to see the complexity. Gender, race, culture, all of these things have their foot in both DNA, biology, and the environment in which this person is raised and is living in. So help students to navigate and pull apart those things that they're ready to dismiss and say, oh yeah, it's just this, or it's just that. Try to help them get rid of that word just. Try to help them dig into, well, how about this? How is it connected to your biology? How is it also connected to your environment? And then which one is more dominant? Which one has a stronger pull? So with this particular pack, I like to give students an alternate form of assessment. Typically with an essential question, I have them answer the question in the format of an essay responding to that EQ, right? So across the course of the unit, what are the different things that led you to your response? Which one is it? Is it really going to be environment, or is it going to be biology? Which of those two is more dominant? So once I've given them a chance to do the written version, I like to also collect and provide an opportunity for a creative version. So to do that, I have the students begin first with a T-chart, right? So they're kind of looking at something like this all the time. Environment, biology. This one is all about them. So what are the things that my environment has created in my identity, and what are the things that my biology has given me already? And so I have them come up with this list, and then from this list, they choose, let's say 10 to 12 of the words, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be equal. It's the 10 to 12 that they feel the closest to. They feel like are the most representative of who they are at this time in their lives. With those words, I then give them a chance with this fingerprint image to write the words kind of into these spaces and demonstrate what it is that makes up their identity. So there's another way to do it, which is a landscape version. And then these make a really nice display for your classroom on a bulletin board or in the hallway. It also sets up a fantastic writing prompt, asking them, okay, so what is this answer? What does it look like for you when you were picking through, your 30 words and narrowing it down to just the 10? Which side of yourself do you feel like is more dominant in crafting your identity? And so it gives them a very visual, tactile way of doing that exercise.